Hello everybody and welcome to Parks Bros. It's Drew here and we are finally back with another West Coast Racers construction update thanks to a couple of friends of ours. And first off, this is from an anonymous viewer showing the new supports that have shown up in this past week that are all covered up. You can see all the covering, like it's plastic all around the supports, and you can see that they are all numbered differently, like 55.5, 55.11 right there, and then of course 54.6, which this could indicate of course exactly where these pieces will go and which pieces they will connect to. I'm sure the 55 is for a certain area and then 54 is for another area, but all the unwrapped supports in the background are actually from last week, from the last shipment that we got. And it seems like the shipments only come in really on Fridays. Fridays definitely seem to be the shipment day, so it's definitely interesting to see that in effect. But also you can see some very, very small supports within these giant supports. So this is honestly a crazy project, thinking about how many supports there really are. But look at this. These supports are only about 2 feet tall, if that, probably not even that tall. I wonder where those are gonna go. Is there any point where the coaster gets that low? Actually, I think there is. Right before the last inversion, if I'm correct. But regardless, you can see that a lot of supports are just spread out within these lots, all wrapped up in very secluded areas. It's very interesting to see that they are bunching up these supports in all these different ways and in different spots. I can get the fact that they might be doing this for organization, but they definitely seem a lot more spread out than they really need to be, unless we're really missing that many supports, which I would be completely startled by if we still were missing another 150 supports, because that's what would be needed to fill up that space. But here you can see, of course, more wrap supports. These supports are pretty massive in comparison to the supports we got a couple weeks back. Even compared to last week's shipments, they are pretty huge. Here you can see 53.10, I believe that says, and then 54.4 or something like that. So definitely interesting numbers correlating with each support, and hopefully we can kind of get an idea of where those will be going in the near future once they finally go vertical. And maybe we can identify one of these supports as, 54.10. Oh wait, that's there, so maybe this is the 54 section. So that would be very cool to see. Hopefully it goes vertical soon. But speaking of it being vertical, you can see some new track has shown up, and there's actually been a lot more track showing up, about twice as much as we had before. You can see a lot of curved, thick-spined track here, and that's awesome to see. Also, it looks like the end of a brake run, or maybe a part of a launch potentially, but here this thick spine track is definitely going to be mid-ride somewhere, and I'm not entirely sure. The supports on it, like the connectors to the supports, are very funky to me, in all honesty, especially with on the end of it where it connects to 2 different sides like that. It looks very funky, but there is a lot more track showing up. Hopefully we will get twice as much in the next week or so, but you can even see here this yellow piece is definitely in an interesting angle. It definitely could be a drop potentially, or maybe a leveling out point, but it also is at the end of a turn, I'm pretty sure, or maybe the beginning of a turn. It's very hard to tell where these pieces are going to go, in all honesty, and I really can't wait to see them finally getting put in, hopefully within the next month. Now, I did hear some interesting news, is that the deadline is technically November 1st. That is the date that everything has to be done. But that's not too promising for a summer opening to hear, oh yeah, we must make sure it's done by November. But we'll talk about that a little more after we get a nice look at this beautiful section of track right here, which is just fantastic. It has the curves of an angel in my eyes. But yeah, it looks really great. One thing I am a little concerned about, I know I'm not an engineer or anything, but the little connectors to the spines themselves and the rails look a little thin to me. I know there's a lot of them, but they do look a little thin, at least in my eyes. I've always seen those pieces of the track a little bigger than that, maybe a little thicker, but I mean, I wouldn't really know. Just something I noticed. But in comparison to the rest of the track that's shown up, I think this is the best to get a view of what this track will actually look like all around. And here you can even see on this support, it's got some weird squares on the side. Looks to be for different connectors of some sort. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe it's the end of a launch track where it goes up and it has to connect to an electrical box or something like that on the side, but I'm really unsure of why those would be there. Besides maybe an electrical box. That's the only thing I can think of, to be completely honest, but all the track is looking really great. I love the yellow and silver, or maybe is it white? Is it white or silver in your eyes, or gray? Let me know. I'm thinking it's more of a white, but I still haven't seen it in person. Here's a tag just saying Premier Rides, and this is this piece, blah, blah, blah. And also, they can't spell customer right, it seems. I noticed that last time too. I just find it a little funny, but that's completely okay. It is from an Italian factory, so English is definitely not their first language anyways. So it's all good in my mind, but all the track is looking great. Definitely looks to be that we have all of the launch track and brake track already. And you can even see here from behind Green Lantern Station, I believe this is, that there are tons of boxes, hopefully for electrical, and as well as some pieces of track that definitely look like they are the transfers, and you can see drive tires on the left side of those pieces of track as well. So that's very exciting news. All of this from an anonymous viewer, by the way. I actually don't really know who it is, so it's very cool to see all this, though. Tons of boxes. Now, I don't know if this is including stuff for Green Lantern or not. I don't know if they're packing away parts of Green Lantern in those boxes, but I'm guessing it's for West Coast Racers, considering the transfer track is sitting right there. And we know it's the transfer track because it has drive tires on it and not much of anything else, as you can see here, but tons of boxes. I'm guessing for electrical, but we'll just have to wait and see on that one. And now this clip right here is from our good friend Mark. He ended up stopping by in the park real quick for a little bit, so thank you so much, Mark, for getting this shot. And it looks awesome to see all the footers in for the first and third launches. They are completed. Those footers are complete, so this is great news, and I can't wait to see more. Now, this upcoming shot is from our friend John, who is also at the park getting more footage, and he sent it over to us, and I must say thank you, John, so much. You can check out his Instagram down below if you'd like. He's got some great stuff on there, but you can see a lot of work going on the site, specifically for the trench over by the go-karts, where they will end up having to put multiple footers, probably upwards of 25, maybe even 50 footers. So it should be very interesting to see over there. Maybe they'll just make it one unit like they kind of did with the first and third launches. They made it just a big block for a footer, or a couple of those footers, and they'll do that for the entirety of the track around the go-kart track, so that would be kind of cool to see. Apocalypse is pretty much done with the retracking as of now, at least that we can see, so that's pretty exciting news as well. But you can see some kind of vertical construction. We're kind of debating whether that piece of wood right there is to signify the station or just the transfer track. We're starting to think it's for the transfer track itself, so that's completely okay in my mind, though. You can get another shot of this here, and it's looking pretty great, I must say. You can see tons of footers completed, though. And supposedly, the footers for the second and fourth launches in the trench next to Apocalypse are completed as well. So that's great news to think that a good half of the footers have been finished up. Maybe even 3/4, but I'm guessing it's more half because the Spaghetti Bowl is going to have tons of footers, as you can see, with all the digging going around over there. But it's very cool to see all of this finally getting going again. We did have kind of a slow week for construction, in all honesty, so it's nice to see it all starting to go a little quicker now. So you can see a lot of rebar getting shaped up, though, so there's definitely more footers having to go in, but we will just have to wait and see when those go in later on. And I'm wondering what the actual Spaghetti Bowl section will look like when it's finished. I think that's going to be a big surprise when we see that going vertical, but there is still a little bit of concrete work going on over there, but not too much. Now here's some pictures of just the site itself, and you can see that the footers going into the Top Gun stall are done. So that's pretty exciting to see. It will go over Kickin' Chicken, as well as that pathway, if they keep that pathway the same, which I'm pretty sure they are. They're just rerouting it a little bit so it turns a little quicker. So you will see track going right above that pathway and then over Kickin' Chicken into a Top Gun stall, which I think is going to be amazing. And then it'll go over the pathway where Slingshot is as well. Here's another shot of those footers there. Some of them are really awkward shapes, and it's kind of funny to see, in all honesty. It reminds me of the background in some Mario levels, so that's pretty funny to me. But you can see here the blocked footers I was talking about earlier, where it is just a block of concrete. It's not the circular concrete that you see for most of the footers, but it definitely is just this block. And I'm guessing that's where the launch will most likely be about halfway done or so, right before it will start to go up into the high five elements that we will see hopefully soon here. But it's really cool to see all these footers finally finished up. And here's just an overview of the site itself, which is looking quite barren, but at the same time pretty busy. So it's really cool to see all this going on. And also you can totally see with these two last shots that there is the start of a foundation for what looks to be a corner of the station potentially, or maybe just the side of a transfer track. It's really hard to tell at this point how big the station is going to be, first of all, and where exactly it's going to be. So I'm guessing that is just the back corner of this station itself, which will connect over to the transfer track, which will be in that building that we're starting to see go vertical there. But we'll just have to wait and see for that in the next coming weeks. But I must thank the anonymous viewer, Mark and John, for sending this stuff in. It looks incredible, and thank you so much for watching. I know the project's going a little slow, and I promised I would talk about that deadline a little bit, so I might as well do that now before I leave. And I've just gotten word that the deadline is November 1st. Now, technically, that is the end point for the project. So if the construction company is not completely finished by November 1st, then they might have some trouble on their hands. This does not mean that it will be opening in November, though. That is just the ending deadline. So we could honestly see it opening up in August, July, June, which I doubt as of now, sadly. But do not be too scared about November 1st being a date given. That is not going to be the opening, I'm pretty sure, or just a completion of construction. I mean, hopefully construction is completed by around June is my guess, maybe even July. But we'll just have to wait and see. I really don't know all of the things that they're changing with this land, and I guess it really depends on how long it takes for the rest of the supports and track to show up as well. But honestly, my guess for the opening date is somewhere around August, as of now. But we'll just have to wait and see. We really don't know. There have been some days where the project has been going insanely fast, and then there are some weeks where it just kind of slows to a lull. So just make sure to stay tuned here for all your West Coast Racers updates. And if not us, go over to like Theme Park Obsession or Coaster Loop if you'd like, because they've got some amazing updates on this as well. But again, I must thank the anonymous viewer, Mark and John, for sending this all in. And I must thank you for tuning in. And of course, as always, we'll see you on the next ride.